Okay, so what I'm going to do is lay out the Super Glider or the Air Racer project, and to do that, I'm not sure if I have sound or not. I'm going to start off using a pen. You guys want to use a pencil so we can erase, but I'm going to start in the upper left hand corner, and I'm going to measure in a 1/2 inch, down 3.5 inches, and then down 4 inches. The reason for that is we're going to have the folds to make the uprights of the bottom of the car, the bottom of the vehicle, and then at the that would be at the 1/2 and the 3.5. That's where we're going to fold, and then at the 4 inch mark, we're going to make a solid line. So what I'm going to do now is take and draw a solid line right across. I want this to be 11 inches. I'm going to make a mark here and here. Remember, we want to measure at least twice before we draw a line. Now I can extend this line. Three inches of this line is going to be solid. Then the remainder is going to be dotted. So I'm just going to make my marks here at the 3 inch mark. So make sure this is lined up. Draw a solid line. Solid lines, that's going to be where we're going to cut the dotted lines. That's going to be where we score our lines. Scoring, basically we're going to take a utility knife and just weaken the paper a little bit so that we get a nice clean cut, or a nice clean fold rather. And do the same thing right here, and then our dash lines. Now the reason why I'm using the triangles as straight edges is because a lot of our rulers are banged up. We're not going to get a nice straight line with those. So we have our triangles available. We use those triangles as our straight edge. Okay, so the last line I need to draw is a line between here. This is the last line on the body rather. And this is going to be also a dotted line. We're going to score this. Okay. Then what I want to do is I want to start making my fins. So for my fins, I'm going to measure down 3.5 inches. Make a mark here. Measure down 3.5 inches right from this line. Make a mark. I'm going to measure over 3.5 inches, make a mark, and 3.5 inches this way, make a mark. So what I'm going to do, start drawing my lines. So this is going to be a solid line right here. this is going to be a solid line here. Then what I want to do is I'm going to draw a diagonal line, just like we did on Inventor. Oops. Make sure we're holding our straight edge. And now what I'm going to do is measure in a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to measure down a 1/2 inch. Remember, the dotted lines we're scoring, the solid lines we are cutting. Measure twice before you make your marks. Okay, and then measure over 1/2 inch. Okay, so now that I have that, what I want to do, those are my fins. I want to do my air scoop. My air scoop is going to be 3 3/4 by 4 1/2. So I'm going to measure 3 3/4, 3 3/4 of an inch, measure over, and then what I want to do is I'm just going to take and extend this line down just a bit to that 3 3/4 mark. So I'm just going to take this, extend this down, and then what I want to do is from this line measure over 4 1/2 inches. So 4 1/2 inches is here. Inches is here. Measure down 3 3/4, and 3 3/4 is going to be right there. So I'm just going to take my straight edge, and I want to connect these lines, or these dots. Take the straight edge, do the same. Alright, now that I have that, I want to measure in 3/8 of an inch on both sides. So 3/8 of an inch is here, 3/8 of an inch is right here. I'm going to do the same down here. Measure up 3/8 of an inch, measure up 3/8 of an inch. These are going to be dotted lines now. Okay, I'm going to fold on these lines. So I want to make sure I'm holding my straight edge nice and tight. And I'm just putting dotted lines in here. Dotted lines, those are the lines that we're going to score and fold. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I want to measure 1/8 of an inch in from the dotted line. I'm going to make a mark. I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm going to measure down 1/8 of an inch right here. Make a mark. Now from these points, what we're going to do is we're going to send these lines right off to the corner. These are going to be solid. That's going to give us our air scoop, being that this line is sloped, is slanted, that's going to give us our, help us with the lift on the bottom of the vehicle. Okay, the last step, I want to make my spoiler. So my spoiler, measuring over a 1/2 inch, measuring over here, a 1/2 inch, and the spoiler is going to be 4 inches by a 1/2 inch. So I'm measuring down to 4 inches, which is going to be right here. So I'm just going to extend this out a little bit. So actually it's going to be the same line here. Okay? And what I'm going to do, I better measure that again. 4 inches. And take us right to this mark. Okay, and we'll put a line right across. Now what we want to do is we want to measure up and down a 1/2 inch. It's going to measure down a 1/2 inch here. It's going to be a dotted line. Here's a 1/2 inch. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Measure up a 1/2 inch. Up a 1/2 inch. And then what we want to do is we just want to make our dotted lines. Okay guys, so this is how we're laying this out. We have our body, fins, air scoop, spoiler.